Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about how can they throw me away?
It does feel like that.
It does. In fact, you might hear other coaches say, they threw you away like trash. They just threw you away. You know, I know that we are very hurt after a breakup, and sometimes people do treat you really poorly. But for the most part, people aren't throwing you away, okay? If a relationship isn't working, they have every right to leave. And if they've made efforts to tell you about the problems they have, or they've opened up to you about things they need to be different and you haven't made those changes, why should they stay? I mean, why, how much time are they supposed to give? Is it based on what you tell them they're supposed to stay, or are they allowed to decide?
Right. In every relationship, you are allowed to end it for whatever reason. And it does suck, but this phrase, they threw me away like trash, that's a story that you're telling yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And while some people do things like that, for the most part, that's not what people do. But it can feel like that, okay? And I've got a good example today of somebody who's feeling like they were thrown away like trash. But as you hear the story, you're going to see it really had nothing to do with that. And his interpretation of what his girlfriend was going through was very different than what actually happened. I didn't see her throwing him away in any kind of way here. And he was particularly sensitive to it. And so be aware of the story you're telling yourself, like Victoria said, that this idea of being thrown away like trash, because it makes you feel worse about yourself. It kind of makes your ex's feelings or thoughts about the situation, and it invalidates what they were saying or feeling. And it's just like kind of derogatory in a way about how they treated you.
Right. And it's assuming a lot. It's assuming what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and their feelings about you.
Yeah. So let's get into this one, because this is a really difficult email, okay? Dear Coach Craig, good evening. My name is Jorge, and I am in my early 50s. I bought the Creative Healing course and the Knowledge Elite series, which I am diligently working on every day for an hour minimum. Good for you, Jorge. Keep it up. Makes a big difference. My fiance, or ex-fiance, is in her mid-30s. We met in 2014 when she worked with me for a short while. We dated slowly and grew to love each other very deeply. We took time to learn each other's love languages, needs on an emotional level, and we never saw an age issue. Did I say he was in his early 50s? Okay, yeah, and she's in her mid-30s. Okay. I thought maybe I forgot to say it.
No.
Love languages and needs on an emotional level, and we never saw our age difference as an issue. We dated a few years before we got engaged in 2019. So, everything sounded good up there, right? Sounded like they built a really strong, healthy connection. They thought about a lot of things. They were thinking about love languages and such things like that. So it sounds like there was some awareness going on.
Yeah,
there.
And it seems like it was pretty mature. It's interesting that they brought up the age difference. We have another video in which we talk about does age difference really matter? So if you are interested in that topic, check it out. But they are both grown adults. She's in her mid-30s. He's in his mid-50s. At that point, you can make rational decisions. So
absolutely.
I don't see a problem here.
We were living apart, but we were seeing each other many times a week. The reason of us not living together was that she was supporting her two younger sisters, which were living with her. We were planning to get married in 2020 or 2021, but COVID threw a wrench in those plans. Upon studying your course, I realized that she is an avoidant and I am anxious. Once we got engaged in 2019, we were planning our future, once hopefully out of the health crisis. We were planning to have a child or two, and even choosing the name of a boy or a girl. But this all came to a scratching halt in early 2020. Her sister, which was only in her late 20s, was then diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. That is horrible. This woman is only in her late 20s and she's getting cancer. And watching somebody that you love go through cancer is horrible. And I saw both my parents go through cancer treatments, and watching them is very painful and it's hard. And you know, I was very lucky to have Margaret supporting me and have been in a good place emotionally in my life, but many people are not. And so when they have something like this, they're not put together well enough to handle it.
And stage 4, you know, this had already progressed. So finding out that news, that it was already severe, must have been a complete shock. I can't even imagine being in that situation.
Yeah, horrible. She had almost a twin sister relationship with her. So the long ordeal started with her being fully consumed by helping her sister through all the medical ordeal and treatments. And let me tell you something. When somebody's going through that, they're going to the hospital a few times a week. They're having to set up appointments, schedule appointments. You have to drive there. You're sitting around for hours with these appointments. You're waiting for labs to come back. It's a very stressful ordeal, and there's a lot to it. It's not just you go to the hospital. There's a lot of waiting involved, going to testing, going to other doctors to get confirmations, and so it's a lot.
All of this while you're going through this anticipatory grief and all of these intense emotions. You know, you're forced to function to keep everything together. And it's tough when you have a person in your life that's still living that you know is not going to be there with you for much longer. You know, you have to put on a face. You have to be strong even though you're dying inside.
Yeah, it's not easy. I was right there supporting her emotionally, mentally, financially, and was fully devoted to her, and to make her feel that she always had a shoulder to lay on. So you could see this guy was really making an effort to be there for her. Okay? And I'm sure that meant a lot to her too, going through that. But even though he was, her focus and her obsession would likely have been on the sister. And it's not fair to him, but that's likely what she was going through. I knew at the start of this that we would have to plan our future, our wedding, our time to grow our own family. I guess he means that they would have to take their time because of this. Her sister died last April. She was there with her sister when she took her last breath. That was when everything changed. Okay. She felt depressed and started to be followed by a doctor many times a week. I guess maybe go to a doctor, maybe because she was depressed. I tried daily first, then weekly to be of support, but she never opened up to me once about her sister. She closed herself off and really did hide how deeply depressed she was. And she probably was incredibly depressed. You lost a sister that was like a twin. They were very close. She wasn't even 30 years old. Horrible.
Yeah.
It would be devastating.
Completely. And when you're in that intense a state of grief, sometimes you don't even know what you need. You don't even know what you want. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to properly grieve or what's the right thing to do. It seems like she might have been in just a complete state of shock.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think it would have kind of shook her to her core. And I think at some point, because she was kind of still so young and the sister was so young, it, I think, would have almost been like an existential crisis. Like completely reevaluating what you want for your life. Everything that you thought you wanted or that was important is kind of like, is this meaningless? Is this important? Kind of reevaluating everything.
Oh, yeah. You're faced with your own mortality when you see somebody that young die, especially when they're that close to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Upon coming back from work, she was waiting for me to come home Once reunited, she sat down with me and told me with an ice-cold attitude that she did feel out of love with me and that she thinks that we will not be getting married and have a family. I was stunned and disheartened. She then got up and left the house we were living in together and has not come back since, except to collect some clothes while I was at work. She also sent me the text below the following day. You can imagine he's shocked.
Oh, yeah.
He's been there for her. He supported her financially, emotionally, and all of a sudden, she's just a different person. She's closed off. She's depressed. She's probably angry. She's not at him, but angry at the world, angry at what happened, angry at life. And I don't know, I think it just completely shook her to her core.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm imagining that he felt or had hoped, okay, this is a really low. I want to be able to get closer with her through this. You know, if we can survive this, we can survive anything.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end of it, now he's getting broken up with. I can see why he's totally confused and not making sense of anything.
Yeah.
You would think somebody who's in mourning would want that support. But unfortunately, you know, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I can tell you that when people are grieving, they're often exhausted. Mm-hmm. And they don't have the emotional strength or availability for anybody else. And unless you're really well put together, you may be acting out, you may be doing things to avoid the grief, getting into bar fights, drinking, partying, one-night stands, all kinds of wild behavior, because it's a lot easier to deal with than grief.
Oh, yeah. And life just kind of becomes a blur. Even your sense of time is completely distorted. So much changes. Mm-hmm. And so I can't imagine what she's going through, trying to make sense of her life, her relationships. Where does she go forward from here? Grief almost creates a new starting point in life.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So we got a text that she sent. This is what she sent the day after she left. I'm so sorry to feel this way and express it with you honestly. You're an amazing person with a good heart, and God knows it breaks my heart to know that you're hurting. I'm left speechless as I don't know what to say. I did want us to become a family and raise a child or two together, but this has changed and my heart aches when I think of this. I've never meant for me expressing my feelings to you to be cruel and hurt you. I would never intentionally do that to you. I just wanted to be honest and share how I felt. My life, my heart is permanently broken the past months and in the process of healing. I'm not in the best place personally, but I know God will give me the strength to see purpose and continue on. Happiness may come in the form of realizing my purpose. I'm so sorry that I've let you down. I feel awful and find it difficult to face the pain. That sounds honest. Mm-hmm. It sounds sincere and authentic to me. I don't think she's BSing him or anything like that.
I don't think so at all. And none of this sounds like being thrown away like trash at all.
That was my point, right? This woman is devastated. Mm-hmm. She's probably depressed. She's probably overwhelmed with grief. She may feel some sort of guilt, like, why am I alive and she's not? Mm-hmm. She's rethinking her whole life at this point.
Yeah, and I imagine that the grief from this relationship, it's clear that she does feel guilty and bad about this breakup, but I can imagine it's a speck in comparison to the greater grief in her life. She said her heart was permanently broken from this loss. I don't know if she has any more emotional energy to even have given you an emotional response during the breakup. You had said that she was ice cold. That makes sense. She had to be ice cold. I don't even think she has an ounce left here that she can give.
Yeah. Let's go on. Now, of course, I made all the mistakes in the book the first 2 weeks by sending love letters, notes, pictures, etc., which you already know were fruitless. Once I started listening to your course, I stopped and I started no contact. which I am holding on with great difficulty. I also started to practice what I learned in your course and will keep doing so this whole year. She did text me Happy Valentine's Day. I've replied very politely and kept silent since. She is also watching my food stories on Instagram. She's like, oh, he's looking at McDonald's again? Better than Applebee's.
Yeah, true.
My question is, how can a person like her, who did send me daily notes of I love you and many other lovely notes, just dying on me and completely canceling our relationship and life together? I am still deeply sad and heartbroken, and I can't for the life of me find reasons why she would throw me away in this manner. Well, I don't think she threw you away.
I don't think so either.
And if you really understood what she was going through, it would completely change your perspective. And it's hard to understand unless you've gone through something like this. But she's devastated. Mm-hmm. She's completely devastated. She lost her sister, who she was extremely close with. They were very young. It's tragic when you lose somebody young. One of my best friends was killed, and he was only 41 at the time. It's a lot harder than when you see somebody that's 75 or in their late 70s. Mm-hmm. When you see somebody still in their early life just taken away like that, it's really hard.
Yeah, it does make you think about life in a different way. And she had mentioned her purpose there towards the end. I think she's in the process of figuring things out, trying to make sense of this loss and grief. What I would really encourage you to do is just dive into learning more about loss and grief. There's so many resources out there. I would also encourage you to attend a grief group. I think being able to connect with those feelings and hear other people's stories and experiences of grief can help you to connect with what your ex might be feeling and help you to stop blaming yourself so much.
Yeah.
You are not trash. I don't think that she threw you away like carelessly. I
No.
could see that there was plenty of reason for her to think, whoa, I just can't do this right now.
Yes.
And it's important for you to understand those reasonings. I really think it's going to help you get through this.
Yeah, I agree with you because the confusion is leaving him putting these interpretations on things that just aren't there.
Right.
Like being thrown away. I mean, this woman sent a very honest, sincere message. She didn't mean to hurt him. She didn't want to be cruel. She's just trying to be honest. She feels like her heart is permanently broken. And in some ways it may always be. Mm-hmm. When you lose somebody like that, that pain is kind of always there. And she's not in a place to be in a commitment or focus on anybody else. I think she's barely being able to figure out what she's going to do to get through the day every day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't think that your efforts here were wasted at all. I don't think that you really being there for her through this grief and loss was in vain. I can imagine that in some time she's going to look back at this and think, wow, this was a supporting character. This was a really tough time in my life. And you start to pinpoint, okay, who really stood by my side? Who really listened to me? Who really was there even when I didn't know what to do? And she's going to reflect back, and I'm willing to bet that she will think of you.
Yeah.
So
she didn't have anything but positive things to say about him. And so, she's going to have to think about that, but I don't think she's anywhere near.
I don't think so either. Grief is a very long process.
Yeah. And if she doesn't come back, my guess it would be it's more about her than about you. Because it sounds like you were a really good partner in a lot of different ways. And she even said it, right? I think she even said he was like amazing or something, right? Mm-hmm. He's an amazing person with a good heart. It's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to her. It's not fair to her family. And it's certainly not fair to the sister to lose her life at, in her late 20s.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But this isn't about her throwing you away or not caring about you. I think she feels tremendous guilt, and it's making it even harder for her when life is already hard enough right now.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to leave her alone and respect her. And if she gets to a place where she's feeling good again and maybe has the energy for a commitment, or she kind of feels like she knows where she's going with life again, she could reach out. I mean, it's certainly not about you or doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a really unfortunate, sad thing that happened that was unfair for everybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes life is just unfair.
Yeah. And I would really encourage you just to manage some of those overthinking tendencies here. To me, this is not a mystery how this ended up in a breakup. You know, she is going through a lot. We talk about in relationships, you do not live in a bubble. Other things in life can have a huge impact on your relationship, and this is definitely one of those things.
Yep.
So try to be compassionate to yourself, be gentle with yourself, and try not to spiral down into thinking of what she might be plotting or planning or scheming. I really don't think this was any attempt to hurt you or to be cruel.
This was just a very painful, difficult situation for everybody. There are a lot of people that are hurt over this, including you. And it's no more cruel to you than it is to her or the sister or the parents that lost their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a very painful aspect of life and losing somebody, okay? But please don't see it like she's throwing you away in any way here. I don't think she is.
Right, I agree.
I think she cares about you a lot, and she feels really guilty, okay? And you don't throw somebody away that you care about and you feel guilty about hurting.
Mm-mm.
Right? All right. Tough situation. Hopefully this has been insightful to you guys and helpful. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here if you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.